And we meet again. Hey, this is Rob Ryder. Today is Twitter, Jack Dorcey, and bad faith. Attention FTC, maybe the Federal Trade Commission. Bad faith conspiracy to impersonate Twitter, Inc., a Delaware corporation, to dictate the use of and content on www.twitter.com, social media site. On Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020, I would be Rob Ryder, and my email is courtofrecord@aol.com, courtofrecort@aol.com, and I need to know, hey, where are all the QAnon attorneys? Right? Go get the QAnon people and have them watch this video, and I'm going to show you that what we call Twitter really isn't Twitter, and the people that are pretending to be Twitter that are impersonating the real Twitter in order to dictate the use and content on twitter.com. It's part of, this is just the way it is in this fictitious system we live in, that there isn't any paperwork anywhere in the corporate system that's ever done properly, whether it's a court case or a traffic ticket or filing the paperwork for a corporation. Right? These people don't do it right, and they don't do it right on purpose, because then when you try to sue them, they're really not there, right? You're suing a thing that doesn't exist by using improper names, improper addresses, and so forth. And this is a really good example to use to show people this. So this all started for me just the other day when, right, Twitter banned 7,000 QAnon accounts, limits $150,000 as part of a broad crackdown. Okay, well, I said, okay, well, I know that I'm going to go look at their paperwork and find something wrong, not knowing what it would be at the time. What can I do with it? Who can I give it to? And the place that comes to mind to me is the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, because, well, this would be antitrust. And so after I show you what I did, I'll show you that I filed a complaint with the FTC. But I'm not saying that's the end all. I really like some high-dollar attorney to get involved and do it the right way and get this shit busted, right? Bust the frickin' trust. Actually, it's antitrust, right? We're trusting these people to do something and they're not doing it. It's bad faith. So, part of the problem is, I got to show this because, this is the core problem to everything. Did you know that in The Naked Communist, which is a book that was written about communism, tell you what to look out for. Not that I've ever read the whole book, but I was told this part of it and saw it. That it lists like 45 things that you do to create the communist state, right? 45 points that they want you to address, and one of them is promissory oaths. Get rid of all promissory oaths, and that's why if you were to Google for USC 101. Title 4 United States Code, Section 101, oath by members and legislatures, and go to this www.gov.info.gov, because you're going to want to download a copy of it. I'd carry it around in my car, show it to a cop or whatever, right? All sorts of things to do with it. Take it to the township hall meeting, or to the county meeting, or send it to every sheriff, police officer, judge, whomever it is and say, look, this is Title 4 United States Code, which is for the flag and seal and seat of government and the states. And it says in Section 101, oath by members of legislature and officers. Every member of a state legislature and every executive and judicial officer of the state shall, before he proceeds to execute the duties of his office, take an oath in the following form, to wit, I, Robert Allen Ritlewski, full legal name now, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States. Right? Well, they're not taking that oath. The governor isn't taking it. The attorney general isn't taking it. The county commissioners don't take it. Judges don't take it. Justices don't take it. Sheriffs don't take it. Police chiefs don't take it. Policemen don't take it. Dog catcher doesn't take it. The frickin' school board doesn't take it. The librarian doesn't take it. Any of these offices that's created, that's considered a public officer, under your laws, is supposed to have taken this oath. And they're not taking it. So they don't have any authority, because federal law trumps state law. First, you need to satisfy the federal before you can satisfy the state. And just because the state has an oath of office doesn't stop what they have to do here. Federal government said, do this here. I, Robert Allen Bertluski, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States. That's what they need to have done. If they haven't done that, it doesn't matter what else they did. And if you were to look really closely at what they did, it's done wrong anyways, because they never used their full legal name, right? That's your identification, the name that's on your driver's license, on a real ID compliant driver's license, right? It's your full legal name, the name that's on your birth record. You can't use an initial, you can't use any nicknames. So it's just the way it is, right? So I suggest everybody, download a copy of this and think of all the different people you can take it to and say, look at this. If you don't have this, you don't have any authority. I thought you needed to know. And to tell the Pharisee the truth, because right now they can say they didn't know this. But once you show it to them, well, the shoe's on the other foot. Okay, well, that really isn't why we're here, but I have to cover it because it's the critical thing of everything, is this fact that, if you were to take a case to court, the judge doesn't have this, well, you're not in one of his courts. You're not in one of the courts of the state. You're in some private tribunal. You need to tell the guy, look, if you don't have this oath, this is an improper venue for me. Right? Tell the plaintiff to take their action to the proper venue, judge, because in my venue, the judge has taken this oath. So, that's an affirmative defense. Now, another one I heard in a movie, in fact, I need to go find it. Hang on just a second. This is too good not to tell you, since I'm on the subject. Okay, so because our system in the United States is under the common law of England, the common law of England still applies in the United States, I'll put it that way. Whatever happens in the common law in England should be able to happen here. And in this video here, The Strange Case of the Law, episode 1 of 3, Laying Down the Law, which this is a 3-part episode. I've only had a chance to watch the first part. This guy is starting out in the early days, like in the 900s and moving forward with how English common law was developed. And he says that the thing that the common law, right, the civil law courts or royal courts even, that they never could get a grasp on is jurisdiction over the ecclesiastics, clerics, right? And so what a cleric would do is he would claim right of clergy? Something about clergy. It's in this video. It's towards the end of the video, as I remember. But he said that the way that you would get that is you would say in court, it was this simple, the first sentence out of Psalm 51. I should have pulled that up while I was at it, so hang on a second. Okay, it's called Benefit of Clergy. Exemption from English clergy and nuns from the jurisdiction of ordinary civil courts granted in the Middle Ages, but abolished 1827. Well, we have to find out, because this guy, the way he talked, you might want to say it anyways. And so what he did, he said it was this simple. You say the first sentence, it's in Psalm 51, and I'd be using the King James Version, I guess, since we're talking about the common law of England, which would be, have mercy on me, O Lord, according to thy loving kindness, according unto thy multitude of thy tender mercies, blot out my transgressions. Because back in the day, the only people that could read were the clergy, right? So if you could read it out of the book, well then, they gave you the benefit of clergy. So, there you go. Now, I was told a story some years ago now about a kid that had gone to traffic court. He'd gotten all sorts of advice from all, the patriots about what to say. And when it finally got to be, time to talk, the judge said, well, do you have anything to say for yourself? And the kid just bowed his head and said the Lord's Prayer. And when he got done, the judge looked at him and said, get out of my court and never come back. There you are. So there may be something to it. That's all I'm trying to say. All right, let me get back on track here. Hang on a second. Okay, so that video is The Strange Case of the Law, episode 1 of 3, Laying Down the Law, right, from 2013. Enough on that. And we don't need that anymore. And we don't need that. We know this is what they did. Now, what can we do about it? Okay, well, I said, well, where is Twitter's headquarters? All right, let's start there. Where is their freaking headquarters at? And so I Googled Twitter's headquarters and came up with this kind of hit that said Twitter's headquarters information. Twitter headquarters is located in San Francisco, California. Right? Physical address and mailing address. Okay. Then I had found this on Bloomberg. Twitter Inc. Right? Address. Yep, San Francisco. Phone number. Sure makes it sound like that's the place. Okay. So, there you are. So what did I do? Well, then I decided, let's go look in California. And we'll go to the Secretary of State's website, which is Alex Padilla, California Secretary of State. Every state could be different, but it's just business lookup, right? I want to search for businesses doing business in California. And you find this page and you put in corporation name and, let's just put Twitter in and see what we come up with. All right, we got some hits that, this one's been suspended and this one's been suspended and this foundation is active. Twitter Inc. is dissolved in this case in California, but we got Twitter Inc. from Delaware that's been, that's the one that's active. Okay, so, they said Twitter Inc. is the company, so now we're looking at Twitter Inc. and this says that it's a Delaware jurisdiction, who its agent is, process, and so forth. And it had these documents that you could download. Now, this isn't the same for every state. Sometimes you can't find any documents to download. You may have to pay for them, right? But in this case, I had them. So, for instance, here's the registration back in 2007. If we open it up, right, it's a statement and designation by foreign corporation. So this is where we'll start. So let me gather my pieces. I'll be right back. Okay, so what I could get is the registration. They had amended registration, publicly traded disclosure, SI complete. I don't know what that is even. I know I didn't use it in what I did because I already had enough information. Statement of information. Right here it's called Twitter Inc. So forgetting that one for a second. So what I did after looking at these, they have this one here. It's a corporate disclosure statement, right, which says the corporate name is Twitter Inc. with this number in there. Well, why is that number in there if that's, that's not the name, or is it the name? Right? Why is that in this block for the corporate name? One of the things I had looked at. And this is the page that shows all the directors and executives, right? And if there's any more, or executive officers, if there's any more directors, well, it'll be on another page. And well, sure enough, there's some more. Look at corporate name, Twitter Inc. C3006676. Well, that isn't how they, if that's their full legal name, that isn't the name they're using on their documents. So, they're using an assumed name without telling you. And so if this was true, this is the name here, Twitter Inc. C3006676, that you would have to sue. Because that's the name. That's what this document says. Okay, so this is just telling all the players, right? So that was good to have. And this is that statement and designation by a foreign corporation, which is the first document that was filed in that particular case. And, it ended up giving it this C3006676 number, filed in the Office of Secretary of State of the State of California, which says Twitter Inc., which will do business in the state of California as Twitter Services Inc., a corporation organized and existing in the laws of Delaware, makes the following statements and designation. Okay, and it says its principal executive office is in South Park, San Francisco, which is a different address than they gave on the websites we looked at. And its principal office in the state of California is the same address. Well, that means in this principal executive office, right, is, we'll see. So what is this thing, right? Twitter Inc. Okay, and then we had this other document that was right after it. So this was part of the same document. When you downloaded this statement and designation by a foreign corporation, it printed out this page, and then this page was attached, which says Delaware. I, Harriet Smith Windsor, Secretary of State of the State of Delaware, do hereby certify that Twitter, Inc. period, is duly incorporated under the laws of the State of Delaware and is in good standing and has legal corporate existence as far as the records of this office show. And as of the 16th day of July, A.D. 2007, and I do hereby further certify that the said Twitter Inc. was incorporated on the 19th day of April, A.D. 2007. And I do hereby certify that the franchise tax had not been assessed to the state. Got her signature, been authenticated, and so good enough. She says that Twitter Inc. is a duly incorporated business in the state of Delaware. Okay, so that's good to know. And then we have this thing here, this, okay, well, it's a foreign corporation. They'd have to file this, you would think. Here in Michigan, you have to, if you're a foreign corporation, like from Delaware, you would have to apply for a thing called a certificate of authority, right? Authorizing a foreign corporation to do business in the state of Michigan. Well, that isn't what this thing called it, and I don't know if they have one. Right? It was called a statement of designation of a foreign corporation, but it's not a certificate of authority, and I don't know if California has those or not. And then we had this amendment, right? So, and it was looking at this amendment because, I have them in the order now that I use to make up a complaint. But when I was looking at this, it said, okay, amended statement by foreign corporation. This is about 2 years after it was filed in 2007. It says Twitter Inc. And it said down here that the name of the corporation has been changed to that herein above set forth, and that the name relinquished at the time of such change was Twitter Inc., which will do business in the state of California as Twitter Services Inc. This thing here, this whole thing is the name of the entity that was registered on this document here, right? This, now look, it says Twitter Inc., which will do business in the state of California as Twitter Services Inc. That right there is the name of the corporation. It's not Twitter Inc. that this Jack Dorcey, a natural person residing in the state of California, whose complete address is 164 South Park, San Francisco, California. South Park, you have to laugh at that, right? He didn't register Twitter Inc. He registered Twitter Inc., which will do business in the state of California as Twitter Services Inc. That whole thing there is the name of the business, right? And then in 2 years later, they said, now we've changed it to Twitter Inc. But that isn't what he registered. And so, if since 2007 the thing in Delaware has been Twitter Inc., then the Twitter Inc. from Delaware, which is the true Twitter Inc., the thing that owns the website, www.twitter.com, the social media website, isn't the thing that was registered by Jack Dorcey. It's a simulated legal process under color of law, just made to look like it's legal, but it isn't. There's nothing legal about this. And so you wrap your head around that for just a second. So I decided, well, I'm going to write a complaint, because maybe the first thing I'll do is I'll write a complaint. I'm going to send it to the FTC. I'm going to say it's antitrust, bad faith, right? So this is what I did, and I'm hoping that somebody who's, a legal expert would say, well, that isn't quite right, and I do it this way, and go ahead and do it, right? To get all of the Twitter shit figured out, and this will crash their frickin' corporate system, because it's just not Twitter doing this. It will be any of these places. Nobody does it right, and here's just an example of how they're not doing it right. So anyways, if you go to the Federal Trade Commission website, they have an email address for antitrust complaints, right? And FTC Technology Enforcement Division is who I sent it to. And I said, RE, bad faith, conspiracy to impersonate Twitter Inc., a Delaware corporation, to dictate the use of and content on www.twitter.com, a social media site. In which I said Jack Dorcey and the other directors named on the State of California Secretary of State Corporate Disclosure Statement, filed May 31st, 2019 under 199904443, 5 pages, with the Secretary of State, State of California, as Twitter Inc., C3006676, C Exhibit 1, are impersonating in bad faith the directors of Twitter Inc., a Delaware corporation, to obstruct commerce and unjustly dictate the use of and content on Twitter Inc., Delaware Corporation's social media website, www.twitter.com. According to the business records available online from Alex Padilla, California Secretary of State, on July 16, 2007, Jack Dorcey, a natural person residing in the state of California, filed in the Office of Secretary of State of the State of California a statement and designation by foreign corporation for an entity named Twitter Inc., which will do business in the state of California as Twitter Services Inc., subsequently registered under entity number C3006676. That'd be your Exhibit 2. Take notice, Twitter Inc., which will do business with the state of California as Twitter Services Inc., is not the legal name of the Delaware corporation Twitter Inc., whose incorporation in Delaware was authenticated by Harriet Smith Windsor, Secretary of State of the state of Delaware, under authentication 5843989, that'd be your Exhibit 3, and Jack Dorcey, a natural person residing in the state of California, did not register Twitter Inc., the foreign corporation incorporated in Delaware, but instead registered an unincorporated legal fiction, Twitter Inc., which will do business in the state of California as Twitter Services Inc. Under entity number C3006676, an amended statement by foreign corporation was filed under A0690518 on April 21st, 2009, in the Office of Secretary of State of the State of California, stating that the name of Twitter Inc., which will do business in the state of California as Twitter Services Inc., has been changed to Twitter Inc. That'd be your Exhibit 4. The directors identified on Exhibit 1 are simulating a legal process under color of law in order to impersonate directors of the Delaware Corporation Twitter Inc. as part of a bad faith fraud and swindle scheme to obstruct interstate commerce and unjustly dictate the use of and content on the Delaware Corporation Twitter Inc.'s social media website, www.twitter.com. Take notice, Twitter Inc., which will do business in the state of California as Twitter Inc., or Twitter Services Inc., registered by Jack Dorcey, is not the registered Delaware Corporation Twitter Inc., owner of www.twitter.com. On behalf of the inhabitants of the United States and other nation states, I demand the President of the United States end the bad faith antitrust activity of Twitter Inc. C3006676 and arrest its directors. All right, that's what I could get done today because I had a bunch of things to do. So that's my complaint to the FTC antitrust to say that the thing that Jack Dorcey, this is the first paper filed under that heading. Now, I'm not saying there aren't other ones on here, but this is all I could see. So I'm going to go with this, right? Let somebody else go check it out. That's all there is. So if we go based on what he put in, then what he registered is Twitter Inc., which will do business in the state of California as Twitter Services Inc. That's the corporation, right? Comma, a corporation organized and existing under the laws of Delaware makes the following statements and designations. So this whole name right here has to be registered under the laws of Delaware, or Jack Dorcey's a liar. Bad faith. Okay, that was that. Because that isn't, right? What got registered? What did the Secretary of State say? It's just Twitter Inc. Well, that isn't what Jack. That's not what Jack had registered. He says right here on this amended statement of foreign corporation, The name relinquished at the time of such changes was Twitter Inc., which will do business in the state of California as Twitter Services Inc. That's the name of the business that he pretended to register. That when he did it on Exhibit 2, he said, this is the thing right here. This whole name is registered in Delaware. Well, that's not what Delaware said. They said, no, Twitter Inc. is. Okay, and then they, so now we're looking at 2019. That was back in 2007, 2009. In 2019, they got to, file this paperwork here, these corporate disclosure statements. And they're pretending to be Twitter Inc. Right? Well, I'm afraid that's just antitrust. Somebody's pulling down $12 million a year. Ooh, $17 million a year. Ooh, you guys got some payback. Right, here's all the different directors, right? They're all fraud. Well, that's not going to change. Yes. You're all engaged in fraud. So there you are, President of the United States, Donald John Trump. If you ever get your oath of office straightened out, that's all it took. And I'm going to stop right there. That's what I did, right? This is where it's at. It's on Alex Padilla's website. And however you want to search, right? Searching by business search, putting in the different names, and these are all the different ones that showed up. Suspended, the foundation, but that isn't the name that they say they're using, so that doesn't count. They say it's Twitter Inc. And the one that they registered isn't Twitter Inc. Beautiful. You'll have a great day. I hope you found it useful. And we'll see if anybody can do anything with it. Have a good day now. Bye-bye.